All right. Welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask Us Anything. I'm Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild and RIZE Presses, and I am here with you on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm typically here with a couple of our phantasmagorical editors, and we are here to answer whatever the heck you want. uh, we love to answer questions, anything from editing to publishing to what's it like to live in New Mexico. Ben White, one of our amazing editors, he lives in New Mexico. What's it like to, I have no idea. I could start making up more questions, or but right now I'm not that clever. So anyway, but we're here to again answer whatever questions that you may have. And sometimes what we'll do too is we will bring in some questions or some topics that we've observed over the previous week. So, admittedly, though, this week I was a bit late in getting the link out to this live stream. So, it may just be me, which is totally fine, right? I love you guys. I'm more than happy to just chat with you. But or some of the guys may just join a little bit late. Again, all good, all fine. Now, what you may have noticed as well is that I have started a new live stream called Don't Be a Zombie: How to Regain Your Purpose and Fulfill Your Dreams, Get Your Drive Back. I would love it if you guys join me for those. Admittedly, those are probably only going to be on less than 15 minutes because the whole purpose of it is really to kind of sit down, talk about some things that you may experience in your life that make you feel withdrawn or lost, and talk about some ways that I personally have approached similar instances, and then we take those techniques and we make it into something actionable for you. So it's not just me blathering about, oh, poor me, sucks, blah, 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 right? It's more about, all right, let's look at what's happened. How can you, specific instances of things that may have occurred, and how, if you've gone through something similar, how can you approach it? So not only are you no longer stuck, but you have a path forward, and it's a long term path forward. You also may have noticed, and here is the amazing Ben.
Good evening.
How are you, my friend?
Doing well. Doing well. Just 3 minutes late today. That's not bad.
No, I think that's pretty good considering I didn't even get the correct link out until what, a half hour ago?
Oh,
That's when I
nice.
realized. Yeah, about a half hour ago, I went, oh my God, it's a link from 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Oops. Sorry.
Yeah, 3 minutes late is not bad for this week because it's been a crazy week.
I feel you on that, man.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I totally feel you. Uh, CJ says, Happy Thursday to all from York, Pennsylvania.
Very
Happy
nice.
Thursday. I'm actually,
CJ.
I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, CJ, so I'm only a couple of hours away from you. So that's not too dang bad, I'd say. I was just joking. I was on another call and I said, not too bad for someone who just had a bunch of gelato. So gelato is like water ice, custard, water ice. It's like a layering. It was pretty dang fabulous. I got it from Rita's Water Ice, which is like the place to go. And it's within walking distance of where I'm staying, which is just deadly. It's a good thing I didn't get any until today because I leave on Saturday. So so yeah, Margaret says, "Hi from New York. Hey Margaret, it is awesome to see you as always." Oh,
Hi from New York. It's Saturday night.
I know, I was thinking that.
It's Thursday night.
It's
Hi, Margaret.
Thursday night. Um, don't forget, guys, we also give away books to whoever asks the best question. So we really do love questions and we love answering them for you. So, yep, and we reach out pretty quickly right after the session to whoever we've identified as providing the best questions. So definitely hit us up. We love to hear them. So what made your week cray? Out of
Oh,
curiosity.
well, on top of my regular teaching schedule, I had to substitute for another instructor
Mm.
for her classes. She had a family emergency, so I had to take over some classes that that kept me on campus longer and longer and
Oh my.
yeah. And the traffic here, you don't think it's bad because Albuquerque traffic is only bad certain times of day. So if you pick your times of day, you're good. But when there's a balloon fiesta in town and there's 100,000 extra people driving everywhere,
Woo!
you get it's too small to handle the crowd. But the sky is big enough to handle the balloons, so we're okay.
Wow. Oh damn. A
Yeah,
100,000 people.
yeah.
Wow.
Most of them. I think somebody said the other day that they come from the surrounding states and from the
Hmm.
world because it's the International Balloon Fiesta, and so we get the neighboring states and then the world.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great experience. We were down in it last Saturday, and you can
Hmm.
still get to the field where they blow up the balloons. You can be right there when they with the crews as they pump them full of hot air, and then you're right there when they take off. You can look up and see them.
Wow.
It's really pretty. It's been great weather too, so that's always good. Last year it rained every day. They didn't fly, but this
Mm-hmm.
year it's been warm and well, cool mornings for them to take off, but warmer than warmer than freezing. When it gets to
Oh,
45, 50, it's good. It's good for them to take off.
nice.
And
Wow.
all the pretty colors up against the turquoise New Mexico sky.
Mm.
It's a good experience. Highly
Sounds
recommend
good.
it to anybody who's looking for something to do next October.
All right. Well, I feel like I'm gonna have to check it out next October.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, our cray hasn't been the same cray. It's been more. So I literally, not. It wasn't last week. I think it was the week before. I was sitting on a business call, and the ceiling behind me fell in. So that was interesting to have the ceiling fall in, and I look up, and there's literally a guy's head. One of the construction workers was looking down, and he was like, "Oh, can I come in and clean up?" And I thought, I can't think of anything else you could have said that would not anything else would have made me freak out. Hey, Peter.
Hello, hello.
Hey,
What are you
my
guys talking
man.
about?
The ceiling falling in behind me for the second time in 10 months.
I saw that. Oh man, I felt horrible. You got a guy yet?
Uh, huh?
Do you have a guy yet to fix it?
Oh, they have to it was the construction company that did it. So,
Oops.
yeah. So, thankfully the guy who did it was honorable enough to come in and take pictures and call the front office and say, "Yeah, I'm the one who did it." I don't think he had a choice though, because I was literally sitting right there, like it happened. If it would have been 2 feet like forward, he would have hit me.
Oh
So
wow.
there's no way any other response than, yeah, we're totally at fault. We've got to fix it would be would not be acceptable. Um, that said, I love, which is sarcasm, that like that happened on a Tuesday, and on a Friday, the financing company that's paying for my roof to be repaired emails me and says, "Oh, we heard all the work's done." And I'm like, "I'm not paying you until the ceiling that the guys actually broke through, and they're the ones who destroyed, that it's completely fixed back to the quality it was before it was destroyed."
Right.
And so I haven't heard from him since, which again, smart move. Yep, smart play.
Very cool. Very
So,
smart.
yeah, yeah. So that's I mean, that's one of a half dozen crazy things. But that's the one that just the mental image of someone's head through the ceiling is pretty funny. I'm now looking to see if I have I don't have images of his head through but look, can you see? Nope. I hate when it does that. Hold on. Let me do that again. No. Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can see the sky.
So it looks like he stepped on it.
What happened was he was removing, you know how your roof's in layers?
Mm-hmm.
So he was removing the bottom layer, like the base layer, and he dropped it. And when he dropped it, it fell through yeah. And then his head went through it.
You'll see in some garages a line through the stucco on the top of the ceiling, there. And how did that line get there? Well, the line gets there because somebody steps off the stud onto the ceiling, cracks through the stucco, and now there's a line.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Line.
That's so true. That is awesome.
I've done it at least once.
Oh my goodness. So what's new and exciting in Peterland?
Rain. We must have gotten about 12 inches, 14 inches of rain today.
Wow.
The deck, it's still flooded. The drains haven't worked yet. So we're just hoping to it slacks off tomorrow. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow, mid-80s, so it should dry up. But it rained all day. Clapped the loud thunder. There was a tornado warning and the loud thunder blast about 4:30 in the morning that woke us up.
Wow.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness.
But everything else is going well. I mean, I was thinking about what I'm working on these days. It turns out that both novels I'm working on have to do with the death of a child.
Oh my!
And they approach it from completely different directions, of course. But that central theme is very interesting. That is running through at this moment with these works, with these novels.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, writing is completely different too.
Wild. That's crazy.
One's more genre, one's more literary.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yes. So, it's been quiet around here other than the rain.
Okay. Ben, what are you working on? I know you've been working your tushy off on short story anthologies.
Yeah. I got some time to put in on those this week because Wretched, my 100,000 word, 500-page novel, is in the hands of the author doing some final polishes. We should have that ready for production early next week.
Wow.
It's been an adventure, but it's a good adventure. It's been because it's a complex story, probably literary in nature, but like I was talking about last week, it's 3 storylines weaving through, and she titles it Past, Present, Ripple has poetry in it. She's sprinkled some poems through it, and then the other one is Storyteller that takes it back to indigenous Canada before colonialism, and very very interesting. The past is World War II Brussels, and then the present, the narrator is about to have a baby born into that family. And so she's tracking the family history back, trying to capture both sides, which hasn't been easy. But the easy details. It's been easy writing, but it hasn't been the storyline. It's harder to find when you have an adoption in the family and you try to dig it up and find it. But it's a good story. It's well written and very detailed. Sometimes too detailed. It's okay. You said it. It's a matter of overtelling it. The history is the point. We get the point. It's not a good point to get, but we get it. And then of course in Brussels, World War II, it's just the lady was helping, or the girl was helping Jews avoid the Nazis, and that didn't turn out well. But yeah, so many different storylines, I guess, or episodes of the family, and it's called Wretched. So the present is telling the unborn baby girl, "Okay, daughter, Here's what you're getting into.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the narrator is pretty much talking to the child at that point. So
Mhm.
it's interesting. And
Wow.
then today, actually talked to Shonda with last songs of Nina Simone. We zoomed in, and I had her read. She read about 3 of the poems, so I could hear
Mhm.
her cadence.
Mhm.
And so when I do edit it, I'm editing it in her voice. I may read it in mine, but I'll edit it in hers and see how
Mm.
they match up and see where if we need to polish any places. But it's well researched and well written. It's some good stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, even for
That's awesome.
poetry, it's good stuff.
Oh, stop.
No, it's very well done. And I told her when we had the acquisition team meeting, I told her we were all sold on it right away, and
Mhm.
and Cody loved it right away. It's coming through Rise,
Mhm.
and she was glad to hear that. That's rewarding for her to hear it. I think.
Oh, good. Good, good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cody was like, "Ben's the only one who could do this. None of us are confident enough." And I was like, "You are absolutely right."
Yeah.
Well, none of us are poets. You know what I mean? Like we love poetry.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote music lyrics when I was a teenager, but I don't think that counts. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Or change that. It does not count.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. And just
Um,
the having it about Nina Simone, who
mhm.
who was famous, but not as famous as she might have could have been and should still be, because she's a great find. When you find Nina Simone music, it's a
No,
it's a
it's
great
incredible.
find to hear.
Yeah.
And she covers Dylan. She's got to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've just been pounding out novellas whenever I'm not having a ceiling falling on my head. So,
It's good to have a hobby.
yeah, like how dare I not have another I say this in sarcasm and watch. I need to watch myself. I don't need another one. Twice in less than a year is more than fine. That's more than plenty. But yeah, and they're so wildly different, the novellas.
Yeah.
So which makes it even more fun, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, anything from being written from the perspective of uh, writing about a cult, being written from the perspective of the person um, who was a member of the cult, and you kind of go through her arc of belief in what got her to believe it, and then you know suddenly going, I don't think this is quite right. Which is funny because I actually was having dinner with a dear friend of mine that when I used to live in Philadelphia and work in New York City, and she and I would go to Broadway to see like musicals and different uh, plays and so on. And there's a let's just say there is a well-known um, cult of sorts that has representation along Broadway. And we were like being all ballsy, like, oh, yeah, we're going to go in there. And because the rumor was that once you get in, the way that they've structured the building, you can't figure out how to get out. And by the way, it's accurate. We actually ended up we got in there, and a couple of people who worked there kind of like followed us around, you know what I mean, like sort of guiding you like through the area. And then there comes a point, and they're very smiley and like pleasant, but it's like creepy smiley, like where you're like, are you gonna break your face? Like that doesn't look right, there's something wrong. And there came a point where we were both like, we literally ran out the emergency exit door in the back, which I think we actually set off the alarm. But yeah, but because you could not find your way back to the entry. So anyway, so the this novella, like, definitely reminded me of that. And now I'm editing one that's more about someone who's kind of like, I don't know, I would I would politely call him a slacker. And for those of you who are not old enough to know that terminology, I'd say go Google it. And the guy somehow gets a hold of a treasure map, and it's a very vague treasure map that, like, this could be New Orleans, or it could be Florida, or it could be, whatever, places with swamps. And so he goes off on this adventure to try and find a golden egg. So it's very fun. It's much more tongue in cheek. It's a lot more, you know, slightly fantasy, I guess you could say. So yeah, very, very different writing than the cult uh, novella. So a whole lot of fun. But thankfully, I think I finished my first round of edits for the Rise novella anthology, and for the Cure short story anthologies. And we do have new titles for it. I just haven't had a chance to tell anybody. Ben came up with a whole bunch of good titles, as one does.
Of course he did.
And none of them are hit.
Oh, I don't even remember, man. I have to go back. I went and I told everybody, you tell me, give me a bunch of titles, and then I'll send out a survey to all the people who are in it, and then you tell me what ones are your favorites. And I think there were two that were like the top two or whatever. And so now I'm slowly going through all the novellas for the Running Wild anthology. It's just taking me longer because of things like, having the ceiling fall on my head. So it's shocking how that sucks up your time.
Yeah, but if you're looking for excuses, you can find them,
Well, that's true. I mean, why not? That, and traveling to the, and me, ballsy me, I'm always like, oh, I'm just gonna work while I'm traveling, which I do, right? But you forget things like, oh, right, I need Wi-Fi access, and like I need to be able to get to this or whatever, and that's when you realize like how good you've got it at home with everything all like set up,
Yeah.
compared to when you're out and about in the big world. So CJ says, I love that you can find humor in your falling ceiling. Oh, my love, there are so many wackadaisical things that have gone on in the last couple years. You've got to find humor in it because otherwise, yeah. So I love that Ben and Peter can find humor in their day-to-day lives.
And not just in your falling ceiling. We find humor in that too.
Exactly. Oh, and just because I do this every single time we get on. So Peter, how's your novel going?
Come on, I'm making some good headway. Found some good stuff last night, so I'm going to continue on that today.
Yay!
Mm-hmm. Finally hit the vein.
Woo! That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm very excited.
Me too. So,
what was the key? What happened?
What happened to find that vein?
What went from not being in the vein to the vein and into the vein? Finding the vein.
Obstinate determination, I guess. Okay. Just to keep hitting it until finally something made sense.
Okay.
And it finally made sense last night.
Yeah. It was a process. It was a process question.
Exactly. So, like, don't give up. No matter how frustrating it seems, no matter how long it takes you, don't give up. If you give up, it ain't gonna get written.
And don't throw out the stuff that you're not going to use. Put it in a side file. Because it may not be cool for what you're doing now, but you may it may be inspiration for something else in the future.
I actually did a talk on that in my college.
Oh, cool.
Like killing your darlings. I said create an image heaven. And any phrases or terminology or whatever like that, just put in that side document. You never know what's going to inspire you to write. or come up with story wise. So I mean, I've got pages and pages and pages of that stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So CJ Grant asks us, so when an author's writing a series, when is it appropriate to query or submit the second book? I'm going to let Ben and Peter go first.
I would just think from my limited experience with a series that when given the time and space and effort it takes to get one churned out, I would say when one has hit the market, I think the other one should start being queried then. Mm. Just because it is going to take a little time to get it edited and to production and to publication. And I don't think you want too much space in between the two. But I think that might be a good time to wish the first one good luck and then start on the second one right away. Mm. But like I say, I'm guessing with limited experience.
Peter, what do you think?
I agree. I think keeping the momentum going is key. I mean, once the first book hits, or at least hits with an agent, and they start shopping it around, and it's garnering some interest, and get some offers, get that second book going. You want to have it like I've got another one right here, as opposed to waiting. It's like, oh, I published a book 3 or 4 years ago. It's like you need that momentum. You need your face and your name in the news on bookshelves, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with both Ben and Peter. And just to piggyback on it, I'm assuming you're going to be submitting to whoever your original publisher was for the first book. Excuse me, submitting to them first. And, just sort of for awareness, there was a news article, and of course, I'm not going to remember what where it was published. It wasn't the New Yorker, but it was one of those, people who are in like literary circles are going to check it out type areas. And the article was about the fact that most authors in today's market, they don't actually take off until their third book. And now that doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean it's the third in a series. It's just their third book in general, because it takes the first 2 books for you to build like a fan base, and to become better known in the publishing world and with like bookstores and so forth. And so what happens is when you got your first book out, you're putting out your second book in the series, to both Ben and Peter's point. Once you've got that baby already acquired, I mean, hopefully you've already got everything worked out for your third book. Start writing that third book or get that third book, knocked out, so that as soon as the second one's acquired, you can start, putting it out for the third book. Because what happens is that the booksellers and the retailers, when they see that you've got, you've got 2 books out and they hear that you've got a third coming, well, now they know you're going to be around for a while, right? You didn't just publish a singular book and you've gone away. And especially if it's something where you're publishing like at minimally every other year, if not once a year, that also gives you a whole lot of credibility from like a retail and a distribution perspective, because they know that you're somebody that they can go to for stories, right? Like they can rely on you, so that if they do say yes to having a book signing or some kind of talk or whatever with you at their location, then they know that there's going to be a body of work that they can point to individuals who may want to come to those events. So the sooner the better all around. Great question. Cremo says, hello. Hey, Cree, it's always good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So anything else exciting that you guys have experienced in the last couple weeks?
Not especially literary now, just heading into winter,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. When I the fall is my favorite time of year, especially on the East Coast. Like I love the change of seasons, but it's also then I get stuff like sore throats and all that. So I happen to I literally landed in Philadelphia when it was still like 80 degrees. And then Philly, especially like Philadelphia, New Jersey area, it tends to be like 1 minute it's 80 degrees and the next day you got a high of 62, right? Like if you're lucky. So,
Yeah,
uh,
Chicago was like that.
yeah. Which I mean, it's not bad. It's just that, you know what to expect when you get here. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But
So,
I'm trying to think if there's been anything that's come up. Um, oh, so actually, I was asked to speak at Drexel University to their um, incoming. I keep wanting to call them freshmen, but that's so not fair because it's an MFA program and that's a graduate program. So it feels weird to call them freshmen, you know? Um, so I was asked to speak to them about, the the us building Running Wild and RIZE, right? And then our experiences in the publishing industry and like what people can expect and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny actually. So there was a really good question I got on the side. Someone asked me um if you've self-published, is it like a black ball when you try to when you bring a different book out to like agents? Like, do publishers and agents care if you've self-published books before? And I want to say if this was the 2000s, they would absolutely care, right? If this was even maybe even 2010, they would kind of care. But in 2023, they don't care at all. And a big reason for that, in my opinion, is because there have been so many authors who, when their agent or their publisher said were not going to publish something, they just went ahead and self-published it themselves, and it became wildly popular. That they just know that it's just a reality of today's market.
Mm-hmm.
So. But Margaret Buchanan says, think Colleen Hoover. I was also thinking of Scott Siegler. Like he was a big bestseller before he started indie publishing, and then when he indie published, he actually started selling in like I want to say like he sold like 1 million copies, which to me it still blows my mind. And Game of Thrones was actually originally self-published. And that's another one that, you know, the author had gone to his publisher and said, I've got this idea. And they said, no, no one's going to go for that, you know. And now, mind you, in both cases, in Scott Siegler's case and in Game of Thrones, again, it didn't hit immediately, right? Like they were out for a little bit, but it's like once it took off, because what people tend to do is they'll pick up one of the books and really enjoy it, and then wonder like, hey, I wonder what else is out there by this guy, and then they'll go and they'll buy the previous versions. So so yeah. I don't know, Ben, Peter, what do you guys think about it?
I'm deferring.
I think whatever you can do to get your book out there is a good thing. You want to get as much noise around it as you can, just because I mean it's a tough sell, and having sales before, as you were saying, having sales approved as you go to an agency. I've already sold X number of these books. What do you think about this book? You're establishing a following. You're establishing an audience. So, which is always a good thing.
Actually, and it's interesting, you mentioned that. I don't know, Ben, sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, just that the comparison between the early 2000s and now, the publishers who are offering self-publishing deals can entice it and incentivize it with the distribution channels. I think they're much more prevalent now than they were. So yeah, well, you self-publish it, and there you go, you got it. Congratulations. But now I think that to the competition has made them offer the distribution as well,
Mm,
and that certainly helps. And just the easiness, it's made easier than trying to break into that hard soil in that hard soil garden of traditional publishing. And so I'm sure, writers say, well, I can get the book out there and I'll do the rest, or I've got that distribution channel now and they'll do the rest or help with the rest, and let's get it published and then go from there with the hard marketing.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there is a perception that because there have been so many authors out there who self-published and they took off, right? That oh, this is so easy, I'm just going to self-publish it and boom, I'm going to be this, iconic, you know, uh being that's going to hit the market. And it's so much harder than that because, it's you've got to do to what I think Ben was saying. You don't have all the distribution channels that you really need to get in all the different markets. You don't have a big sales force behind you, which distributors, like formal distributors from formal publishers, provide. You're probably not going to get into libraries and into schools because there are very specific distributors who actually work with them. And the reality is that I call it white noise. Like there are so many people out there who want to get their books in the market. And so what a lot of retailers, I mean, they tend to trend to focus only on those areas those places that they know are, air quotes, real, or they're going to get a higher quality of work. And so they're going to focus on those distributors that they know are reputable. So and that's really one of the things that going with the publisher gives you, is to do that, right? But and it also, again, it gives you a sales force behind you, because there's a sales force that works with a distribution team. um but in today's market, again, as proven by those who've self-published, so people want somebody who's personable, because it's not just about the book, it's about the person behind the book and how they came up with their ideas, and all the activity that led up to them actually bringing that book forward. And what's the doofy thing they did this morning when they went to make their oatmeal, right? Whatever, right? But it's that more one-on-one feeling of being engaged with that author. And so like that was one of the big things that was another actually big question that came up, was whose job is it to do marketing and publicity? And we hear that every single week, right? um if not multiple times a week. And the non-sexy answer is it's everybody's job, right? We all have to work together. And there are some places that the publisher and the distributor can't be the ones going forward because they don't want to hear from you, right? um like the local bookseller doesn't want to hear from me to to put together an event for our authors. They want to hear from the author. And I've been flat out told that. Like that's not like I'm making this up or an assumption. Like I've actually reached out to some of our local retailers to try and set up events for our authors, and I've been flat out told that they don't want to hear from me. So it's really just understanding who from and what different business channels, or what channels, who do they want to hear from, who will they talk to. And like it's really about the authors building relationships with not only I wouldn't say with all the retailers. I think it's more so it's about building relationships with the potential readers, and getting to know their readers, because that, I mean, you know I think it's really about, at the end of the day, it's about telling great stories, that that your fans, that readers they want to read, you know.
And the biggest thing I think about when I think self-publishing, and the reason why sometimes they're difficult for me to read, is they didn't pass it by an editor, or didn't get
Mm.
enough runs through an editor to get the stuff taken out. Because if there's a typo, or a sentence just goes off into the ether, it's like that's like a pothole in a story. It just completely throws you out of it. So you got to take all the necessary steps to have the quality work. Quality of the story is what you were just saying.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. And that was actually another question that came up was, should I hire an editor for my work before I send it out to agents and publishers? And with the implication of, then they're not going to edit it. And I was like, well, um, I mean, you can, but be careful. Like, you need to make sure that you're bringing on board an editor who understands your work. They get, like, they edit in the same genres and the same forums that you write in. Get recommendations from other author. Ask them for recommendations from previous clients, because it's not cheap. I mean, I've heard people paying anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to have a manuscript edited, professionally edited. And I've heard that the base cost to have an independent editor edit a work is at least 3 cents a word, right? So, if you're going to put out that kind of money, then instead of having a friend who knows your work review the work and give you feedback, right? Which is probably what the three of us have done the majority of our lives. If you're gonna,
we've even had authors tell us that they've had it edited, and I've had this edited and had it proofread and officially formally edited, and then so they're kind of rolling their eyes at the process that we're doing for them, because they think it's polished, and then you find out that they in one version they changed the names, but the names didn't get changed all the way through, and you find that, and then they say, oh, because that extra set of eyes is always worth it, always, and so or even like Peter's story about this hit the top 10 of whatever list, and Peter's point is, why not make it top 5, and with that extra set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and back to both Peter and Ben's point, it's worth doing it, but don't, like, if you're going to do it intelligently. Do your homework, get recommendations, find out who else they've worked with, make sure that they've, again, worked in the same or a similar forum that you write in. Because especially, like, let's say you write literary, and this person's an editor who edits in romance, and they're not familiar with literary craft, then you may get a lot of feedback that isn't necessarily appropriate. And that could be for anything, right? My hope is that all editors are very well read and read across multiple forums. That's my expectation, in multiple genres, but that's also because I'm a nerd and that's how I am. Like, I read everything. So, which is a bad expectation of others, right? You shouldn't project onto other people. But again, back to, I think, both Ben and Peter's point, absolutely, do it, but do it with your eyes open, and don't do it with the expectation that, okay, hey, I got this professionally edited, I paid a bajillion dollars, and now everything's great. And so and now every agent's going to clamor for it, and every publisher's going to want it. And that is not what acquisition is based on. So
Another issue with that is that if you get it edited before you get it to a press, before it gets to an editor within that press, you say, well, it's already been edited. It doesn't need to be changed. It doesn't need to be updated. It doesn't need to be fixed. It's good the way it is, and that's hardly ever the case. You gotta be open to change. You gotta be open to revision. You gotta be open to edits, because everybody's just trying to make the book better. Nobody's doing this out of a sense of ego. There's not enough money in it right now for ego.
Right.
So just be open to suggestion. I mean, I lost one author because he's like, no, this is perfect. And I couldn't get through 30 pages of it without going, okay, this would take me at least 5 hours to get to this far in the story. He's like, well, no, we're not going to change anything. I don't need to change anything. I'm like,
yeah.
And I can't, if you're not going to work with me, if you're not going to work with us, then why even bother submitting? Then you have to, then you want to go straight to self-publishing.
Yeah.
Eliminate the middleman.
And we have, to Peter's point, we've had a couple of authors that, you know, when we acquired it, you know, when the author started working with the editor, they came in and they were just like, well, I've already had this professionally edited. I don't need this, doesn't need any more editing. Or I've been working on this for 10 years. I know it's perfect, right? And when the editor tried to kind of help guide the author, we've had a couple who said that, you know, I don't want to work with you anymore. And we went, okay. I mean, understand, we've got plenty of work. We don't, if you don't want to work, I mean, this is true anywhere. You don't want to work with us or you don't want to work with any publisher, they're going to say, okay, great, good, have fun. You know, it's highly doubtful they're going to run off into a corner and start crying. At least I would be surprised. So, and we've had a few instances where they actually, after maybe a year or so, I'm betting they were shopping it around to see if someone else will pick it up, and no one else would. And then they came back and said, "Oh, well, you know what? I changed my mind." Well, after the editor was just treated completely horribly, it's highly unlikely they're going to want to work with you, because we're not here to get beaten up. You know, we're all doing this because we're passionate about storytelling and we're passionate about great stories. And we thought, you know, your work had a lot of potential, but then you told us to suck it. So, you know,
it's called burning bridges.
Yeah, and I think it's funny too because that came up as well, and I want to say. I'd say the majority of the people that we've experienced that kind of behavior with, when I mention their names to other editors, both from major houses and from, you know, like mid-size, the response was, oh no. Like these individuals already had such bad reputations because they just treated the people they were working with so incredibly poorly. And, you know, this goes back, treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't be a jackass. No one deserves being treated, you know, like they're lesser. Nobody, not an agent, not an editor, not a publisher, nobody, right?
Yeah.
But
I had a submission once. It was a manuscript and sent to a publisher that was advertising as traditional publishing, but they came back and said we're interested in this, but it's a little different, and we're not sure if our marketing team can do anything with it. But we would like for you then to invest in the self-publishing aspect of it.
Oh.
And my response to him was, well, if you don't trust your marketing team, why should I?
Mm-hmm.
And because I found out later that that's the way they work. That was their kind of hook. Let's get you in, show you some interest, get your money, and then go from there. But still, I think you still go in with eyes wide open again and know it's even though they're going to compliment you and tell you that, yes, this is great work. We love it. We want to publish it, but we want you to pay for it because our marketing team doesn't know what they're doing or for whatever reason that they give. But and like I said, I did hear other writers have the same experience with that company. And so it makes them suspect, you know, and that's what the value of network of writers can do, because you share those experiences and say, watch out for them, watch out for that company.
Yeah, that's another reason to be part of a writers group, because you can pool ideas, pool experience. I mean, and to be honest, if Vanity Press is the way you want to go, then go take that route, get it published. But you know, there's other options. elevate your work even higher than what you've put into it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I concur with both Ben and Peter. I mean, so much of this, it's like it's doing your homework, right? And which is more than going on, Publishers Weekly. It's finding out who else they've published with, and reaching out to some of them and just asking like, what was your experience? And actually, another telltale sign, if it looks like the publisher, like they don't have any repeat authors, then that could be potentially a red flag, right? So it's definitely worth reaching out to authors who've already published with them. And also just making sure that whatever you wrote actually fits within their wheelhouse. Because I think a lot of times we disappoint ourselves because we're so eager to get our work out there that we submit our work to places that maybe on the surface it sounds like it would be a good fit, but then once you actually get into it you realize, oh, this isn't, my, read one or two things they published, and you realize that you're not writing in the same family, right, in the same genres, um as what that publisher publishes. And because once you realize that, then you're not going to, there, you won't submit to them, so you won't get disappointed. um but yeah, really, like, do your homework, figure it out. um uh See, are they only publishing their cousins, right? I only slay that
We actually
slightly in
do
jest.
have an author with us who told me his story once about looking for an agent for his novel, and the whether it was in the agent's bio or in the feedback that he gave him, there was something that came up with the agent was walking his cat to the opera, and the author, nothing against cats and nothing against the opera, but didn't necessarily need an agent whose priority was walking his cat to the opera. And so that's just part of it too. Even when you're looking for the agent, look for the good fit of
Mm,
of their interests and their backgrounds and their cats and their operas, their choice of opera. But
I don't think my cat could
that was
stand an
that
opera.
was for the Iraq War story that just didn't fit that agent's
Mm.
approach.
No, that's a good point too. It's the same thing with agents, right? Like just really kind of figuring out, like I have a few dear friends who've been with their agents for so long, the agents no longer actually take new authors in that same genre anymore. They're
Mhm.
focused on a completely different genre, right? So when, you know, when my friends are approached by new authors, could you recommend me to your agent? Well, I mean, I could, but you're gonna get disappointed because they don't, like, even though they may love me, they don't represent that type of work anymore. So yeah, it's really looking at this as a business because it is, you know, and with that mindset and with that approach, being very aware of what you're bringing forward. Oh, and that's the other thing I was going to mention is, especially in today's market, because this came up a couple times. Like I wrote a self-help book, and I was asked to put in a section just on social media. And when I went online and I got my different book proposal things, there wasn't a section that was specifically just for social media. But it is so important nowadays because especially with anything that's like nonfiction or actually anything, right? They so want to know that you have a strong presence and you have a strong following. And that can actually make or break that proposal. So when you are putting forward your book pitches or your book proposals, or just sending that query out there, if you've got, you know, um, and I just say this, like Kiefer Sutherland or Paul Stanley, or pick a famous person who follows you. on social media. You want to make sure you honestly you mention it and then put a reminder of how many followers they have, because when you do start your promotions around your respective books, you can always ping them independently and just say, even if you don't know them personally, they're still friends of yours online. You could just ping them and ask them, like, hey, would you be willing to share this? I'd greatly appreciate it. You'd be surprised by the number of people. There are so many things that are just popping up on my window on my laptop. Sorry about this, guys. But you would be surprised at the number of people who are more than happy to just go ahead and share things on your behalf. So yeah, take that shot.
Yeah, and it's a numbers game. You got to query out there, keep putting queries out there. However, if you're on, in the 3 dozen, 4 dozen, 5 dozen queries, and you're not getting a positive response or any sort of interest in what you're putting out there, don't stop believing in it. Just take a couple steps back and reevaluate. Maybe take a couple more passes through it. Maybe hire a different editor. Keep believing in your project because that's your book. And keep working it, but take a couple steps back, reevaluate, and then go requery. Those kind of numbers.
Totally, absolutely. And with that, we only have 4 minutes, guys.
That came up today with my discussion with the author of the last song of Nina Simone. I told her that I was trying to remember when I first heard of Nina Simone, and I mentioned that it may have been President Obama said something about Nina Simone. I said, well, let me look up who that is, and she was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could get the Obamas to write the foreword? And I said, absolutely. All we got to do is ask and tell them that story that you mentioned Nina Simone and somebody heard you and they became a fan of Nina Simone. And would you read through this collection and write the foreword? And I think we'll ask. We'll go down the channels as far as we can to ask. And if no comes back, it bubbles up no. And we say, well, we took a shot.
Yeah, you can't get if you don't ask.
Yeah,
that's right. And I actually heard the Obamas are pretty responsive. So,
and they are Nina Simone fans, so it works.
Awesome. Well, we've got 3 minutes, guys. So far, I'm pretty sure I know who's going to win that book. And it can't be Ben and it can't be Peter.
And if you ask who, that's not the question that would win.
Nope. But yeah, next week I'll be back in Los Angeles. So it'll be good to see you guys from there. And I can, hopefully I won't be able to show you the hole in my ceiling real time. Hopefully it'll actually be repaired. The rumor is that the construction crew is going to come back when I get back and actually repair it. So, which would be great. I would like to have a whole house again. So, I'm still waiting for them to finish my front room. Oh yeah, I don't have a floor in my front room as a result of you have to laugh because it's like, seriously? Yeah, I still don't have. So that is my floor as in my front living room as a result of the hurricanes.
Wow.
Because the insurance company said they wouldn't cover having the floor replaced. I forget for some reason, but then they approved the construction crew to come in and take it all up for fear of mold from, because it was multiple hurricanes and multiple rainstorms that went through my roof and down into my ceiling and onto the floor. So they got approval to lift the floor, and then when they went back to the insurance company and said, okay, so now we have to actually replace the flooring, they said, no, we're not doing that, we told you no. And they were like, but that doesn't make any sense. So you had us remove the floor because of potential mold, but not replace the what the how does that work? So now we're in the middle of 10 months into it of battling to get that done. So one day I'll get my living room back. So we'll see which one wins. If I get my ceiling back and my roof complete, or if I get my front room done, we'll see which one gets done first. So anyway, well, on that lighthearted note, as always, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, CJ, Margaret, Cree. You guys are fabulous. Always wonderful to see you. And we will see you guys next time. Ciao.